Imagine a woman so full of kindness, so devoted to serving others, that when she passed away, an entire community was shaken. The tears and mourning of those who knew her weren't just expressions of grief. They were cries of despair. Who would now care for the poor, the widows, and the needy? Her faith and generosity ran so deep that God chose one of his greatest apostles to bring her back to life. This is the story of Tabitha, also known as Dorcas, a disciple of Jesus who lived not for herself but for the forgotten, the marginalized, and the brokenhearted. What made her so special? Why did God decide to perform such an extraordinary miracle in her life? Stay with us and discover the inspiring journey of a woman whose faith continues to impact lives even today. But before we dive into this powerful narrative, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss more biblical stories like this one. Now, get ready to meet one of the most remarkable women in the New Testament. In the bustling port city of Joppa, where merchants and travelers brought news from distant lands, lived a woman named Tabitha. Her Aramaic name means gazelle, while her Greek name, Dorcas, carries the same meaning. Her name reflected her graceful, swift, and lively nature. Unlike many women of her time, who were confined to their homes, Tabitha was known throughout the city, but not for wealth or status. She was known for her unparalleled kindness. She wasn't a queen, a prophetess, or a political leader. She was a disciple of Jesus, and she expressed her faith not just through words, but through tangible acts of love. She devoted her days to serving those in need, the widows who had lost their husbands, orphans with no one to care for them, and the poor abandoned by society. Each one found refuge in her. With her own hands, Tabitha sewed garments to clothe those who had nothing, but her generosity went beyond fabric and thread. She shared food, offered comfort, and brought hope to weary hearts. Her home was a sanctuary for the lost, a place where the rejected found belonging. What many didn't realize was a personal sacrifice behind her generosity. In a time when resources were scarce, Tabitha gave without hesitation, trusting that God would provide. While the wealthy contributed from their abundance, she gave everything she had. Her love wasn't just admired, it was transformative. People who had once lived in misery now had a reason to live because someone had cared for them. Tabitha's faith wasn't theoretical, it was practical. She understood that the true measure of faith was love in action. Every gesture, every piece of bread she shared, every garment she crafted was a living testimony of God's love. Then, suddenly, tragedy struck. Tabitha fell gravely ill. The one who had always cared for others was now helpless, overcome by the frailty of human life. The very widows and poor she had helped gathered around her, watching in anguish as her condition worsened. And then, the unthinkable happened. Tabitha died. The news spread like wildfire through the city. The widows clutched the garments she had made for them, holding them as if they were sacred relics, weeping bitterly. Joppa, once filled with joy because of her presence, was now engulfed in deep sorrow. But what no one knew was that God wasn't finished with Tabitha yet. A miracle was about to unfold, one that would shake the entire city. In the midst of grief, a glimmer of hope emerged. The believers in Joppa heard that Peter, the great apostle of Jesus, was in Lydda, a nearby city. Without wasting a moment, they sent 2 men with an urgent request. Please come at once. Acts 9 verse 38. It was a cry of desperation. They knew that Peter walked in the power of the Holy Spirit, that miracles followed him. Perhaps, just perhaps, God could still do something for Tabitha. When Peter arrived at the house where Tabitha lay, he was met with a heartbreaking scene. Widows were weeping, showing the robes and tunics she had made. Each garment was a tangible reminder of her love and generosity. Peter felt the weight of their sorrow, but he also knew the power of the God he served. He remembered when Jesus raised Jairus' daughter, how he had sent the mourners away to pray in private. So Peter did the same. He asked everyone to leave the room. Alone, he knelt down and prayed. This wasn't an ordinary prayer. It was a cry to the one who has power over death. Then, with divine authority, he turned to Tabitha's lifeless body and said, "Tabitha, get up." A breath, a movement. Suddenly, her eyes opened. Tabitha was alive. Peter reached out his hand to help her up. Then he called the believers and widows back into the room. When they saw Tabitha standing there, alive, their mourning turned to shouts of joy. The news spread rapidly throughout Joppa. The miracle was undeniable. The woman everyone had seen dead was now walking among them. Many who had doubted before now believed. The God of Israel had displayed his power once again. But Tabitha didn't retreat into a quiet life after her resurrection. On the contrary, she continued doing exactly what she had always done, serving others. Her act of kindness now carried an even deeper meaning. Every garment she sewed wasn't just a gift. It was a living symbol of the God who gives life. Her testimony echoed throughout the city. People came from far and wide to see her, to hear her story, to seek hope. If before she had impacted lives with her hands, now her words also carried power. But in everything, she never glorified herself. She always pointed to Jesus, the only one worthy of praise. Tabitha's resurrection wasn't just an isolated miracle. It was a turning point. What happened to her strengthened the faith of many and fueled the growth of the church in Joppa. Her acts of love were never forgotten. Generations later, her name was still remembered as a shining example of service and faith. Tabitha teaches us that we don't need status or wealth to impact lives. All we need is a heart willing to love and serve. And her testimony still challenges us today. How are we using our lives to serve others? Are we living in a way that reflects the love of Jesus? If this story inspired you, share it with someone who needs encouragement. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more powerful Bible stories. Remember, God sees your faith. He is not finished with the work He started in you.